All right, there's the notification, and as of this moment, we are live on the GFW Facebook page as well.
Okay, we still have one more minute before calling it to order. Okay, I believe we do have all the board members are here. Lonnie, Harold, let's see, Julie's here. Okay.
We may have one more person joining here shortly. I believe Missy Jasinski is going to be joining at some point. I know that she had something that she wanted to share with the school board. She hasn't joined yet, but
Lonnie, would that be during our meeting or would that be the preliminary?
That would be during the discussion.
Okay. All right.
Wade, did you get a response from Bailey at all?
I did not get a response from her.
Okay.
Missy just joined the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I have 6:30 on my clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. And let's see, we will approve the agenda. I believe, Lonnie, there's one addition that you know of.
Yep. Under discussion items, 6C, it would be just a little further discussion on potential addition to graduation.
Okay. Does any other board members have any other additions or discussions they want to add on or remove from the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move to approve the agenda with the addition of 6C.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Julie, you want to do the roll call?
Voss,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Clank,
Yes.
Oz,
Yes.
Odegaard. Odegaard, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an agenda. It's been approved. Again, welcome everybody for watching here tonight. We'll move on to our consent agenda. But there wouldn't be any visitor recognition. So we'll go to number 4, consent agenda. Anything that anybody want removed from the consent agenda for additional communication or discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's made to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Julie?
Voss,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Clank,
Yes.
Oz,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Okay, passes. Go on to number 5, informational items. Lonnie, we'll start with the superintendent's report.
Just a few items. We did have some discussion, administration, Wade, this morning regarding school materials collection plan. And we have developed a plan. We have probably close to 800 pieces of technology that need to be collected. And then there's also some other school issued materials. And so 7th through 12th grade will have 2 different dates with windows of time at each site where families can just come in, do a curbside drop off, and we will take everything from them at that point. And then the pre-K-5 is actually developing a parade where families can come through the primary drive-through. We're going to have staff out there practicing social distancing, but at least they'll see their teachers and then have a drop. That will be central locations. It'd be Gibbon. And that's planned for Wednesday, the 27th. There's going to be a 3-hour window there for families to drop off. Any families that can't do that can use the 7-12 dates and drop off at those. And, that information should be on the website tomorrow. And then we will do a robocall to families and ask them to check the website for that information. Also, teachers will be sharing with their classes that information. We will put the information out on the website in both English and Spanish to help the communication. So probably one of the biggest things districts have been talking about is how they're going to get everything back by the end of the year. Summer meals. We are in the process of finalizing staff to continue our meals throughout the summer. One of the pieces that obviously changes is you do not get reimbursed or any compensation for transportation, so the meal delivery will stop. The other part that we are worried about is we've kind of set it up right now where you can have 3 sites. I honestly don't believe we can run 3 sites and break even. And so we are looking at going to 1 location, that being Gibbon. But then what we'd like to try and do to help families is if they want to do a pickup in Gibbon, we will have meals for 5 days. So hopefully they can make 1 trip and get a week's worth of meals as opposed to having to make that trip every day. And so we're working on finalizing those details. I know there are some schools that are looking at potentially not providing that. One of the things the state does say that if you're not going to provide them, all you have to do is put on your website where they can get meals, such as food shelves or if you're aware of any restaurants that are providing free meals or any other areas. And so I know that it's going to be all over the place with that. Summer school, the state is going to allow summer school to happen one of 2 ways. It can be a hybrid where kids come in a little bit and they're also distance learning for a part of it, or you can actually have it in your building the full time, but with it being on a very small number of students in a class. The ratio that they provided maximum is 9 to 1. But they're highly recommending that you go 6 to 1 for summer school. I will tell you this much, at 6 to 1, we're going to lose money on that, but we do need to provide some services. So we are looking at pre-K, in the elementary, we would be we'll look at 9 to 1. Again, we're not going to do that until August. We're going to wait. State highly recommends waiting until late June. I've heard most schools are looking at July and August. So the elementary will go in-house 9 to 1 for 2 weeks in August. And the high school will continue to use the Rebrand targeted services that is offered. We used to transport. At this point, Rebrand is saying that they're going to use Odyssey Wear. And so they will not be transported except those cases where they have to be. And so we'll see what happens with that, but we do have that in place. And then lastly, today I received from the City of Gibbon attorney a draft of a purchase agreement related to the old football field in Gibbon. And so I did do a quick review of it before forwarding on to our attorney for their review. And once we were done with that and all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, we'll bring that for the board approval. But that'll be down the road. And that's all I got.
Okay. We have our other principal reports that are in our packet here. Any board members have any meetings that they had? Any Zoom meetings with any of their committees? Hearing none, I will go on to our discussion items. Number 6, A is fiscal year 21 budget draft. Everybody had that attachment?
Yeah. So the summary of the budget is in the board packet, and I just wanted to go over the major assumptions that developed the summary by fund. So for the general fund, a lot of the revenue, as we know, is state aids, and are a lot based on a formula with enrollment. So for enrollment, we have 651 students for K through 12. And the general education formula is at 6,561 for fiscal year 21. I added the land proceeds in there. And then for your other revenue for your federal aid, I looked at a 5-year history, kind of where GFW has come in with those, because at this time those entitlements are not known. And then for the miscellaneous revenue and other items in revenue, I just also look at a 5-year history and kind of go on an average that way. On the expenditure side, in the general fund, the biggest piece of the expenditures we know is your staffing. The staffing was all adjusted to the contract settlements that occurred during fiscal year 20. The reductions per the SOD plan, except for with the change in the superintendent position, was added into the budget. And then we had a decrease in the technology equipment purchases that were put in there. So those are the major areas of the budget development for the general fund. For food service, it's based upon the assumption that the school year will start normal in the fall for fiscal year 21. So going back to the food service program versus the summer food program, I was conservative in the revenues with a projected decline in enrollment. Reductions were made due to building closures that would also affect food service. And then for the non-payroll expenses like your food and supplies, I did put an increase in there, slightly higher than I normally would, but due to the current situation, it's potential that the food costs could be a little bit more expensive than we've seen in the past. So that's how I developed the food service fund. And for the community service fund, the same thing. I made the assumption that for preschool / school readiness that we're starting as normal in the fall. For the T-Birds Club, I did bring that down based upon, the start here in the summer in July being at lower capacity with the pandemic in place. So the decrease in tuition revenue, the salaries were adjusted to actual for next year. And then for your general community ed, I did an offset of a decrease in revenue and expenditures, one for potentially no summer activity or a lot less summer activity going on than there normally would, which would bring down the revenue, but also bring down the expenses for those costs. And then the assumption is made in the fall that we could go back to normal and start those programming back up again. You guys have some questions for me that I can answer? Before, I just have a couple other things I'm going to go over. If you have specific ones on the budget.
What about fuel for the buses? Everything has come down substantially. Did you adjust that or leave it 5-year average?
I kind of left it at the 5-year average, just so that we are conservative, not knowing exactly what things are going to look like and what's going to happen over the next few months.
I think Lindsay and I shared last year that, we typically are going to build really conservative budgets. And I think as you saw from fiscal year 20, when you look at what was adopted in the fall, or actually in June, and where we ended up, there was a significant difference. So I'm not saying we're going to see that kind of significant change again, but again, I do think this is a fairly conservative budget that we're providing.
One of the other things that has been going on with the pandemic is that the governor has announced a way for schools to kind of look at programs that were fee-based, areas like transportation where you would have bigger losses because of the school closure, food service, kind of looking at all those areas that were affected by the closure. They are opening it up for a 1-year transfer of other reserves. So as long as you're not increasing a levy area or a state aid that's based upon expenditures, as long as it doesn't fit in those categories, they're allowing us to come. We have till November 30th because that's the deadline of the final, basically the general ledger of the school submitted to the state. So we have till November 30th to approve these transfers, but essentially at the end of the year, when we know a little bit more about the programs fell, we're gonna have to then look at our other reserves that we have in place in the other program did. And it'll be a board approved transfer if we need to do so. Right now, the reserves could change from where they are right now, just because for fiscal year 20, we could move those funds around to try to help in those areas that seen the big losses with school closure. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that we start doing year-end entries and items. We'll be coming to you guys as a board to approve transfers necessary to help fill in those holes that happened during the school year. So it'd be reserves like staff development, basic skills, learning and development, any area where we may not have had expenditures already coded there and have a reserve available. We can use that if we need to in areas where you never normally would have had those expenditures. Any questions on that? Otherwise, yeah, the budget summaries in the board packet, and it kind of shows you by fund, at least in total, not by reserve area. So how we work through that, it shows you in total where the revenue and expenditures are coming out for the adopted 2020 budget.
Great. Any other questions? All right.
So
Thank
we
you,
will
Linda.
come back. We'll come back with this for board approval. We have to have this approved by the end of June. So it'll be a part of the regular June meeting for an approval to have that adopted budget.
Okay. All right, we'll go on. Any other questions before we move on to the next item? Hearing none, we'll go on to 6B, which is the logo rebranding.
And at this point, I'm going to just turn it over to Justin and Missy to talk about that.
All right.
Okay, sorry. Give just a brief rundown, and Missy's created a awesome presentation to go over, kind of take you step by step. So I guess probably the easiest way to do this would be, Missy, if you want to just do your presentation, and I'll kind of jump in where you need me to.
Sure, I'll share my screen now. Okay, is everybody seeing this?
Yep.
Okay, well, just really quick, I'm Missy Jasinski, for those of you that don't know me, and I have 20 years of graphic design experience. So when I found out that there was a logo rebrand project going on, I reached out to Justin and Lonnie and was able to get myself involved in this committee. So this first screen here is in a, oops, I went a little far. So just to kind of evaluate where we're at today and why we would want to rebrand, we can see here that the current mascot, in our opinion, no longer reflects a modern brand aesthetic. And one of the things that Justin quickly noticed and had pointed out to me was that the students at GFW wear the GFW letters on their apparel with pride, but the mascot, not so much. And an interesting quote from VIB Branding, the company we worked with, was that their research has shown that strong school branding increases student participation in academics and extracurriculars. So that's really important. And then the other thing to point out here is just taking a look at the color palette. And we just felt like this current palette doesn't really offer a depth or a richness, and that the yellow is quite bright and has long been referred to as the McDonald's color palette. So that was our first.
And just to kind of, so obviously Missy talked about the reason why I brought it up, which was the student participation in the fact of wearing or seeing our logo within our high school setting. And then the color thing, coming from Rich, he talked about that on many occasions about how that yellow was really difficult to make look good on a jersey, whether it's basketball, football, whatever. It was just a difficult color to really use as a third color and use as something that looked good on jerseys.
Yeah, good call out. So this is just a good visual to show areas of improvement that we identified. One was that we would want to modernize the look of the mascot. We, in the
Did everybody else lose her?
I can't hear her.
So while she's,
I can't hear her either.
well, Missy's getting loaded back up, I'll just kind of take over for, so removing the flames and integrating a representation of thunder into the mascot logo, updating the primary yellow to a more appealing gold, creating a powerful visual brand. So a lot of these ideas and a lot of the credit for the good critiques came from Missy because of her background with visual brands, with that the art design that comes with that is needed for an eye-catching, powerful logo. She has the screen share, so when she gets back on, then I can there. See if I'm going to share my screen. That's showing up for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So I gotta just back up a little here. So go forward. VIP Branding offered us this. VIP Branding is a subsidiary of BSN Sports, which basically one of the things that gets asked a lot about as far as should you stay local, where should you spend your money? Well, eventually everything goes back to BSN. They're the wholesaler for a very large number of the, whether it's Nicollet, whether it's Universal Athletic in the cities, any type of business that generally has to do with a school. As far as that all comes from BSN, which VIP Branding is a part of. So generally they charge you anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 if you decide you want to do this, but they do it for free if you sign up with BSN to be like a BSN exclusive school, which doesn't mean that you cannot order from anybody else, but it just means they ask that you check with them, go through them where possible, and your reward for doing that is not only getting $10,000 to $15,000 worth of branding. And to be clear on this, they've given us this, and they don't care if we use it or not. They've done it. Their work with us is finished, and they've charged us nothing, and they've moved on. So we have all this. We have access to all this stuff, and the fee is waived, and that's in the rearview mirror. The Experience VIP Branding has history and in-depth. Obviously, they set us up with one of their custom designers, and then we had a person that was in charge of that was connecting with me, and then through this website, everybody that was involved in it could have a say. And the committee had two parents, two students, two coaches, and two teachers on it, and then they were able to offer input if they wanted. And thankfully for all of us, Missy offered the most feedback because she had the most experience in it. So that was, she was very engaged, and that was great to see because, like I said, she had the experience, and I'm one to always defer to the expert when necessary. So again, the collaboration idea behind who was all involved in it, like I said, Wade was involved in it because he has a unique perspective, graduating from GFW, being part of the community, being part of it in other settings, as well as technology and coaching. I was involved, the athletic director, and then we had parents, and we specifically chose a parent that was in high school that didn't necessarily wasn't as involved as we'd like, but then also choosing Missy because she has young children in the district, and that was important to us to connect with. You know, obviously when you think of your logo, you use it a lot 7 through 12, but it's something that we all are Thunderbirds K through 12, so that's important. Things that were asked of the logo: bravery, powerful, indomitable spirit, victorious, dominating force, protection, strength, and success. And then using that, trying in some ways to look at the inspiration of the original Thunderbird logo. Missy, get back on, because I don't
Yes,
need to be
I'm
just...
back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
You
you're
can
right. No, you
you
did a
can
good
feel the jump in wherever you want.
No, sorry, my laptop decided just to restart on me. Yeah, no, you did a great job. Just looking at attributes of a Thunderbird, because one of the challenges really with this is that a Thunderbird is a mythical creature that doesn't really have a look. It's not like a panther. So we just really needed to kind of evaluate and take all these kind of characteristics and think about what we would want that to look like for our school.
And that's a great point, because the first Thunderbird I saw was Southern Utah, and when I brought that to the group, everybody said that looks like an eagle. And then you're like, oh yeah, because
Yeah,
every
or-
Thunderbird seems
yeah.
to look like something because it's a mythical creature. So
You're exactly right. So this is a good slide to talk about how we wanted to align the visual identity with the rebrand objectives. So those objectives being to strengthen our school district's visual brand, because again, we felt that the brand is no longer reflective of a modern and a progressive culture of our students, our education, our athletics. We wanted to develop a stronger brand engagement and create a visual brand that creates excitement, promotes student engagement, and really boosts the school spirit. And then lastly, to create that emotional connection and creating a brand that sparks that connection with our students and staff and the community. And this is a representation of kind of the long process we went through, where we were able to get and give lots of feedback and really drive this project, and how we worked with VIP on that. And then this is what we're proposing to you today for our mascot and our corresponding logo marks. One of the really great things about the way VIP packages this is that they do this complete package so that we don't have like a one mascot logo fits all. We've got the initial mark, we've got the primary mark, you've got the seal and the circle, we have just the mascot, just the given Fairfax Men's primary wording. So, and even an athletic logo. So I think this is super versatile, really modern. I love the update on the gold. It feels a lot more current, and aesthetically, I think it's going to look really nice. And I don't know if Justin talked about this, but one of the main things with this is that we plan to do a slow rollout, so that anything new that needs to be ordered, t-shirts, jerseys, those kind of things that are new would have the logo. But I don't think the plan, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but I don't think the plan was to be rebranding everything in the school.
no, Aaron, you're exactly right. It would replace as we go. It wouldn't be, oh, we need to spend X number of dollars on this right now. It's as you go, you'd have the option of replacing it. And then if you look at something like the initials just on there, where it's GFW with the lightning bolt through there, you can manipulate the colors on that if you have that talent. I do not. You can manipulate the colors to make the letters red or black, however you choose, or however it fits best in your uniform or whatever garment you're ordering. So you can work with that within that system too.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's just one last slide, just kind of shows a comparison of where we are today and where we're proposing to take the mascot logo. And again, showing that change and progression in the color palette, and just giving the logo a lot more cleaner lines and more depth, and just a lot sharper and more current looking. So we're really excited about this. Today, are you making a decision on whether we're going to move forward?
Well, it's on as a discussion item.
Mhm.
So it's up to the board what they want to do with it, whether they want to just talk about it and bring it to the board later on after everybody's thought about it for a decision, or if we want to do it now. So board members,
Well, would we actually own the trademark to the logos that any company we choose could use them? Or do we have to go through this company if we go with these logos?
No, this is 100% ours. Like I shared the website or the site, the secured site with Missy. So she has access to it, and Lonnie has access to it, and Wade has access to it. So right now it's just the four of us really. And then no one can use that except for us. And then if we choose not to use a BSN, if we choose to use a local retailer, we can say, hey, here's our logo, use this. And that is 100% ours to use.
Because I know in the past when we've gone with a much larger company, you order the stuff before the season starts and it ends up coming about 3 days before the season is over. It just, once they went to going with local, it certainly streamlined the process. You had the apparel before the season got going or right away in the beginning. You didn't have to wait till the season was over, and then it was kind of a moot point.
And you have that option of using local. The problem that I found as a football coach is when I had to order a larger number of things, it was best to go with a larger company because one, the price reduced greatly and the quality was higher. And that's not to say we won't do a great job locally, but sometimes if you need 20 t-shirts versus 120, then it's best to go with someone bigger. But again, these logos are ours. It wouldn't matter who you wanted to use. They have that opportunity to use these logos with no repercussions because we own them.
I don't know. I personally really like the rebranding. I think it's a step in the right direction. We need to move forward. We're obviously changing a lot right now in our district. And I know when my kids got a vote on it, they were excited, and I really like the new logo. Just my opinion.
So last spring I put out a vote to and I accidentally clicked that I added all staff on it. I thought it was pretty funny. 60% voted in favor of the logo. When you remove the staff, the number was closer to like 85%. So what you found was that people that had graduated with that logo were like hanging on to it, which rightfully so. That's what they remember, and that's what they love, and that's what GFW is to them. But again, as you look towards the future and getting this next generation excited about being Thunderbirds, it doesn't change the fact that logo was a great logo and served GFW well for many years. But it does give us a chance to rebrand in an exciting way and hopefully get kids excited about being, or I should not being, but it's showing their Thunderbird pride.
I just want to throw in there too, Justin, Missy as well as an alumni. So I know that all the work that she put into it, it was pretty heartfelt.
Yeah, for sure.
Any further discussion? Does the board want to bring this to a vote in the next board meeting in, what are we, May? So it'd be June, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you feel like it needs, because we've talked about this already and we kind of all agreed with it already.
That is true. We've talked about it. We've given the okay to go ahead with it, to bring it back to us to present, which is happening today.
So, I mean, if someone wanted to vote on it today, I would totally be okay with voting on it today versus putting it off. If we can.
Is that a motion I'm hearing?
Yeah, sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I believe I heard a motion to change our logo to this new logo that's been presented to us tonight with a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify, the cost is nothing at this point, and we would only change things as we normally would change things. Like if somebody ordered a new uniform, then we would get the new logo on that uniform. Is that correct?
That is
That's
correct.
the way-
That's the plan.
Okay. So it's not an additional cost in any way.
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will bring the new logo motion to a vote here. Julie, would you like to do the roll call?
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Clink,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, I take that as a pass on that. So it has passed. So we now have a new logo going to our future.
Thank you,
Thank
Missy.
you, thank you, Missy, for all the work
Thank you,
you've done.
Missy.
Thank you.
Justin.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
We will go on to number 6C, which is further information on our graduation. Justin, would you like to take that over, or Lonnie? Who would
I'll
like to
let
handle?
Justin talk about, I'll take a minute. So at the previous meeting, we talked about graduation being a parade. And then there's some things that came out shortly after that kind of gave us the idea that we did go the right direction with that. Once the state said nothing's going to happen as far as stadium and gymnasiums, but there have been some things that came out, and Justin and I talked about that. So I'll let him share what we'd like to maybe add to the parade.
Sure. One of the things we talked about was, so my initial idea was to line everybody up starting at the high school back, just to kind of give you a visual back towards the football field. Like Joe has already made nameplates for everybody. So then I just got to get sticks. So we're going to put in the ground about 7 feet apart all the way back. So they know where to park their cars. And then they were going to initially come through the loop. I think Phil had said he wanted to hand him the diploma. I'd be standing there. So, I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd figure out something I'd be doing.
Announcing names at least.
Announcing names, yeah, and congratulating them obviously when they get out of the car. It was brought to me that some other places were setting up the stage and allowing the graduate to come in with mom and dad, take a couple pictures, show them walking across the stage. So the way I envision it is Phil would be up there with the diploma, could be shaking their hand. I could announce their name as they come in. And then you have the graduation theme playing in the background. So the way we would, what I'm trying to figure out with that is what's the time involved in that? Because if we line everybody up and have them go through the back way to the north door of the gym and have them stop, get out, come in, do that, take a picture, go back to their car, then go back in line so that by the time we get back to the front, we start the parade again. If you figure 5 minutes per family, you're talking 12 an hour. So you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 hours to do that. If you did it a little quicker, where you had one family in there, you had somebody helping put somebody over by the weight room, so they were able to come in right away. It's possible to speed it up and just say, hey, we're gonna have to keep it moving here, because if we're gonna do it this way, it could really throw a time crunch into it. Another issue I see with it is if we say everybody be there to 8:30, say it goes really fast and we wrap up at 9:30, then we can just say, hey, come back for the parade at 11 and line up, be ready to go. Or if it goes really long and we bump into our parade time, I still feel like we need to arrange that in a timely manner enough so that we can get everybody through there and still respectfully start that parade at 11 o'clock on time in Winthrop. So if that was the route you guys wanted to go, just know that, like I said in the last school board meeting, I'm going to do whatever you guys ask me to do as far as to make that graduation ceremony as memorable as possible. I do see there's challenges with both of them, but I mean, obviously, I think it could work, but the only thing that I ask, I guess, and respectfully so, is that we finalize that decision tonight, because they keep getting plans going, and then I keep getting great suggestions. I'm fine with it, but we need our plan. And to quote Lonnie today when we talked about it, we need our plan. We need to know what we're doing from tonight so that we can plan it and have a good ceremony for June 6th. Good ideas may still come up. Somebody else might have another idea, but after tonight, hopefully GFW's graduation is planned, and know that we're putting our heart and soul into to make it as memorable as possible. and somebody a little more creative might come up with something a little bit better to do, but we're still trying to give our kids the best we can with the people we have here making that decision. So, oh, and then caps and gowns are in. That email has went out. The caps and gowns, if you have a Winthrop, Gibbon, or Fairfax address, they're at each site right now, and that email went out today, so they're pick those up tomorrow, starting tomorrow. The diploma covers are in. We're still waiting on the diplomas. Now the diplomas the caps and gowns were not supposed to be delivered until May 29th, and they showed up last week, or excuse me, yeah, last Thursday. So hopefully the diplomas will follow that same suit where they show up earlier than they're supposed to, but they were supposed to be shipped on May 29th. So even if they don't ship till May 29th, we still should be in good shape to have them for the June 6th ceremony.
Justin, have you talked to students on the in-person picture with their parents on the stage idea? Is that something that students want to have happen?
No, I heard that from just one parent. One parent sent me that idea. I hadn't heard that from anybody else, but again, I'm supporting. The only thing that I will share just for my own, I have a pre-existing condition. I have high blood pressure. So if you want me in the picture, I'm gonna be wearing a mask. So I'm not sure that's gonna look great, but if Phil's willing to hand out the diplomas, it's not that I don't want to be part of it. It's just that when I see what my own 21-year-old does in the house, when she does, hang out with a friend, or I drive around and I see kids hanging out, I'm like, that's 58 kids that I don't think are always grasping the whole situation. And my own personal said I'd be nervous being around that many kids and their families and all that without wearing a mask. And I don't think that'd be the greatest look for them to see me wearing a mask.
Phil and I did talk a little bit before the meeting today about this. And if we are going to do it, I think we need to be very aware of what we're providing. As Justin said, he needs to be comfortable. I think we need to make sure that families are comfortable, whether that be having sanitizer before the student goes on the stage that they would use, having sanitizer up there for Phil to use if there is a handshake, so that as soon as he's done, he's sanitizing, having sanitizer after they come off the stage so that there is a handshake, they can sanitize right away. I just think we need to be very careful about trying to follow what guidelines we are being given. I'd even mentioned to Phil, maybe there's a message given to kids that if they are not comfortable with a handshake, there's some type of a sign that they can give as they're coming up, so that Phil is aware they don't want to shake hands. And his presentation.
I don't think we should shake hands at all.
Okay.
Why can't he just hand him the diploma? I don't think there should be handshaking.
And I'm fine with that also. I think we need to be aware of what people are comfortable with.
I mean, especially if they're saying
if you're cutting it out, I agree. Just don't do it for anybody, because what if one person accidentally doesn't give the signal and then all of a sudden you shake their hand and
there may just be a slight chance that this has to be done in the auditorium versus the gym, because of Dave's moving forward with his summer projects and they are starting in the gym. So there could be a chance that they're not ready quite for that. And I don't think that'll be the case, but I don't want anybody to be surprised if I have to send out that email tomorrow when I talk to Dave and say, hey, we're gonna, if we choose to do it this way. So make sure that gym floor isn't stripped or anything like that. Okay. And it could be good by then too. Just another thing to think about.
Did you talk to Denise about taking pictures?
She had agreed to take pictures during the parade. And I guess my thought was, if this is something the board wants to do, I don't want to speak for her, but I'm going to guess that she would be happy to move her time and be in the gym for that. She had actually, when we had talked, she had agreed that she would take a picture of the graduate getting the diploma case, and then she was actually in that picture we would upload to our website. They could get it for free, and then she would have a green screen where they could step to get that another picture a little bit more professional. I think this would allow her to still get those things done in the gym and probably make things go more smoothly with the parade.
I'm just brainstorming a little here. Would it be possible for families to schedule a time sometime that day to come in and take a picture on the stage? Just, like we have this many slots and it doesn't have to be at the parade time, but like 2:00, they'll show up, take their picture and go on with their day. I'm just throwing the idea out there.
Or could
I
we
think that would
schedule like a
turn into
couple
a
days
logistical
before that?
I was even going to say, do we even block out on a Friday if
Yeah.
they want to do it on a Friday? And maybe, Justin, as it's being brought up, maybe this is something if everything's there and ready to go a day or two before, and I know that might mean more time for some people, but maybe we block it into days that are not the day of the parade. That way we know the parade's at 11 or whatever time it's set for, and it goes off.
Yeah, I think it should be 2 separate events.
And to be honest with you, I would prefer that because I would rather line the cars up and then have the celebration quickly go through town and then move on to the next one versus saying we're holding. Because if we get the Winthrop PD and Winthrop and fire trucks, then we're holding them up,
Right.
and we're possibly holding 2 other towns same emergency services up that day. If we go late and we bump into that, and then maybe there's some families, and I don't know. I'm just saying that maybe there's some that don't want to even be part of that because they're concerned about being around people. So we could just set it up and hey, we have this available. If you'd like to come, take a picture and stuff like that.
Now, Lonnie, I don't know, did you end up watching that MSBA video?
I did not get a chance to. No.
Okay, there was a suggestion on there about getting a waiver signed by the student's family.
Okay.
Just,
I do have a waiver, an example of a waiver that is being used. It can be altered to be used for a number of things. And we could do that.
I want the students to have something, but I guess I would also like to have some release of liability if something does happen.
Yep. And like I said, that the reason I got it for a different reason, to be used with something else that we've got starting up. But I think it could be altered fairly quickly with this in mind. I think if we're going to go as 2 separate events, I think there needs to be a window that it's not, it can't be 5 different days with 6 hours each day. I think there's got to be, and the window's got to be a little more narrow than that. And I would hope that you would trust Justin and I to come up with a fairly reasonable window for families.
If I can be involved in that too, Lonnie, so that I can schedule my time around there also.
Justin, do you feel like it'd be kind of a scheduling nightmare if you did it on 2 separate days?
No, as long as we had them blocked up and when they can come in, I'm fine with it. Like if we said Friday, even Friday, June 5th, if you say Friday from 3 to 7, come in and I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas right now as I'm thinking off the top of my head, but we could figure it out within I would just have to know.
I'm okay with that.
I would just have to know because I need to line up some staff and I'd need to let Winthrop PD know because I'd want somebody by the door just to make sure that we're being respectful of the guidelines. And then I think you can do it in a way where we can have, kind of using the baseball analogy, we can have someone up there getting their diploma, someone on deck and someone in the hole. So we can have people ready to go. So we move them through in a timely fashion so that we respect that window of time as well. Because parents, I also don't want parents lining up outside waiting to come in. So that would be another reason why I would ask that Karen or our new SRO, Aaron, be there to kind of stand out in the parking lot and just say, all right, you can come in next, and just encourage people to stay in their car versus getting out and congregating and visiting.
And it
Do
would,
not forget the key person, Denise.
yep.
Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
And I
she's
think
key.
by doing it two separate events, it makes Saturday, the parade, a little bit less stressful because that's the one event.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's going the two separate events kind of time period. Is everybody all right if I get with Justin and Lonnie and try to coordinate our schedules and also with Denise or whoever is going to be taking the photos to make sure it all works out, and then then Justin can just send it out to the parents and the students?
Yep.
As long as we have a waiver too.
Yep.
Yeah,
will
I
get
agree.
together.
And I like the idea that, if some families want to do this and it's important to them, then they get the chance to do it. And if other families choose that that's not really something they need to do, they don't have to do it.
Are you gonna put a limit on how many members of the family are gonna come? Because we can do 10 people now, so I don't know.
So if you have me, me, Lonnie, and Phil are there, you're down to 7. Joe's gonna have to be there to help too. You're down to 6. The graduate 5. So I would still say mom and dad and photographer.
I'm guessing you're probably looking at 4 or 5 family members.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, if you have 3 siblings, you're not gonna say the 4th sibling can't come, right?
No.
I think if you guys allow us to be flexible on the day when everybody shows up, we can maybe it's a group of 10, but if 10 are up by the stage and the other 3 are back by the door watching, that might
Just make smart moves.
correct.
I just don't want to advertise it because I don't want 15 people to show up there and then you end up in the thing we were trying to avoid, which is a confrontation on graduation day.
I would just agree with immediate family.
Yeah, because I mean, in a normal graduation, it's just the graduate and the school staff. So I mean, we don't need to have a group of 15 people taking pictures. They can do that at their house.
Right.
Okay, Justin and Lonnie, should we talk tomorrow and try to figure out like timeframes?
Yep.
Is that okay? Sounds like the board is okay with that, doing 2 different events.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on it?
And I'll provide that as an update to the full board once we have that more or less more finalized.
Okay. All right. If there's no other discussion on this, then we'll move on to action items here. Number 7. A is, looks like Harold's going to take over for us here and give us some information.
Harold and Ed are both here, so they can take over.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening with you, and it's been interesting to listen to your discussion about graduation plans. There surely are many options out there that you have and bases that you have to cover. But one of the other important things that you have on your agenda in the future is to select a new superintendent. And I want to just share with you a little bit and the general public that might be viewing, give them some information about the process and update everyone. First of all, the vacancy was posted April 21st and it was open until May 8th. We had 10 total applicants. One of those, however, withdrew because he accepted another position as a superintendent in another school district. So 9 remained. Out of the 9 remaining candidates, all 9 were males, 1 each from North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin, and the rest are all from Minnesota. 3 of them have previous superintendent experience. 3 had various administrative experiences, such as assistant superintendent, principal, maybe a combination superintendent / principal, and so forth. And 1 had no administrative experience whatsoever. The South Central Service Co-op consultants, Mr. Waltman and I reviewed the applicants' materials and we checked references. We look for candidates that could meet the district needs, future needs as we saw them, and the candidates that would match the adopted attributes by the school district. We're pleased this evening to recommend 3 candidates for interviews to take place on Thursday, May 21st. These candidates have multiple experiences, and those experiences should help generate some good new ideas for the school district in the future. The candidates are excited about being involved in resolving some of the challenges that the district faces. The candidates have the potential to lead the district for years to come, and we feel that the candidates have the personality that's necessary to relate to rural Minnesota and rural Minnesota schools. I will read the characteristics describing the candidates in an A, B, C fashion here. Actually, data privacy says that prior to announcing the names of the candidates, the type of candidate has to be approved by the board. So first of all, then I'm going to read some information about the candidates A, B, and C. And board members have this information, but other people who might be watching and listening do not have it. So bear with me while I quickly read through this. Candidate A. Candidate A is currently an assistant superintendent. This candidate has a doctorate degree, a master's degree, and a bachelor's degree. This candidate has licenses as a district superintendent, as a K-12 principal, as a director of special education, a social studies teacher, a communication arts teacher, a learning disability teacher, and an emotional behavior disorder teacher. This candidate has an experience as the assistant superintendent, a director of student services, a principal in grades 5 through 12, an assistant executive director of an immersion school, and a teacher and a coach in his background. Some comments that are made by those who have submitted support letters for this candidate include the following. This person is a passionate educator, has a strong work ethic, is an excellent communicator, can connect with anyone, listens well, does his research prior to developing solutions to problems, is an agent of change for the benefit of students, is experienced in developing and managing school departmental budgets, has the ability to integrate opinions into positive change, is knowledgeable in types and uses of technology in the classroom, practices, supports, and promotes a commitment to equity and decision-making, is a leader with a can-do attitude, embracing challenges, has a calm, positive disposition. That is candidate A. Candidate B. Candidate B currently is an executive director at an international school, has degrees, the following degrees, a doctorate, a master's, and a bachelor's degree, is licensed in Minnesota as a superintendent and a K-12 principal. This candidate experience includes his executive directorship, a principal in 3 different school districts over an 11-year period, as a high school social studies teacher for 10 years. Comments made by references about this candidate include the following. A person of character, humility, and passionate about educational success. Skilled at bringing diverse groups together around a common vision. Has the ability to be visible, accessible, and responsive. Is a tireless worker focused on what's best for student success. Is approachable, honest, and conscientious. Is an instructional leader that builds positive staff relationships. Is adept at articulating the vision and purpose of school success. This candidate practices data-driven decision-making, is a collaborative leader, has solid interpersonal, written, and verbal communication skills. This candidate is caring, attentive, and a responsible leader. This candidate is assigning financial resources, skilled at assigning financial resources where the students' needs today and in the future. That's candidate B. Candidate C. Candidate C is the high school principal at the current time and has been the high school principal from 2006 to the present. This person has an administrative superintendent's license, is a master's in educational supervision, and a Bachelor of Science in Special Education. This candidate is licensed as a district superintendent, a secondary principal, a community education director, a work experience coordinator, an EBD teacher, and an elementary education teacher. This candidate has experience as a high school principal, an assistant principal, an athletic director, a work experience teacher, coordinator, and a coach. Reference comments about this candidate include the following: a commitment to excellence, has high expectations, develops clear and concise communication of expectations, has a positive sense of humor, has a broad vision for the future, has developed a consistent model of teaching to standards, is knowledgeable and collaborative, is empowering, has leadership style, forward-thinking in the use of technology, is straightforward, honest, approachable, and supportive. This candidate is a collaborative leader, a good listener before making decisions, and this candidate well understands Minnesota school finance. So those are the three candidates that we would recommend for you at this point. What's needed now is the school board needs to pass a motion to accept an invitation, to send an invitation to candidates A, B, and C. If you pass that motion, I will then tell you the names of candidates A, B, and C, and then you should also pass a motion to invite them in for interviews on May 21st.
Okay, is there any further discussion or questions on these candidates first? Hearing none, I'll move that we call in A, B, and C for interviews.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do the roll call vote? Oh,
Sure.
Mike, was there something?
No, I was just getting ready to vote.
Oh, okay.
Clank,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Lee. Lee,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. Keen,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, that passes. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us working on Zoom. Next, I'll move that we make the names public and we call them in to interview. Or I guess just making them public. Isn't that right, Harold?
Correct. And I'll give you the three names. Candidate A is Jeffrey Horton. Candidate B is Jonas Bugan. And candidate C is Shane Laughlin.
Okay, and then the motion is to make the names public and publish.
Right. And invite for interviews on May 21st.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion?
Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
Hearing no discussion. Julie, would you like to call us, do a roll call again?
Clank,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, it passes.
Okay, one other thing, or two other things actually that I want to share with you. And one is that the interviews are scheduled to be May 21st. and they will be staggered between different times. The staff, parent, team interview will begin at 4:35 that day with one candidate, and that same candidate will interview the school board at 5:45, and it'll go in that sequence. And I've sent a copy of the interview schedule to all the board members, but just for the public that's listening, those three will be an hour in between each one. And that will have the interviews completed by about 9:05 Thursday evening. And that after that, the school board will review feedback from the staff parent team and deliberate until they decide on the candidate of choice. And then I pass the baton here to Mr. Waltman, who is going to speak a little bit about the follow-up after the choices are made.
Thank you, Harold. Good evening, board members. It's a pleasure to work with you once again this year on your superintendent search. Thursday is going to be a busy day, a long evening, and one of the final things we'll be working with is the superintendent contract. And that's a contract that is going to finally need to be approved unanimously, hopefully. Usually a candidate will not accept a position unless they have support from the entire board. What I'm going to do tomorrow or later this evening is email you out a copy of the current superintendent contract. And hopefully you can take a few minutes to review that before Thursday night. We'll probably be dealing with the contract about 11 o'clock at night. And so it's going to be late. So to try to avoid going through the basics of not having seen a contract, because I know you have some new board members that have not dealt with the superintendent contract in the past. You can have a contract up for a maximum of 3 years. I believe most of these candidates will be looking for a 3-year contract to make that commitment to your school district. So it is a little different than other employee contracts. Usually what happens is that we have a discussion about the various details in the contract late on Thursday night. And then usually what we ask the board to do is to empower the board chair and myself to negotiate a contract with the new superintendent to be brought back in your June meeting for final action. So I just wanted to mention that because it does get late at night. So I will be emailing you a copy of the current contract. And if you can take 15 minutes to look at it before Thursday night at 11 o'clock at night, it will save us some time. So thank you very much. We're very much looking forward to working with you. And I have the pleasure of working with your staff and parent committee, and you've created an excellent one. So thank you very much.
Okay. Also, Harold had brought up he had sent the questions to all of us. So we all have questions with our names on it. He did bring up one option also. We can either do it that way where everybody has their own question and gets to ask it in the order that it's provided, or that myself just reads all the questions. So we aren't stepping on anybody's feet. How does the board want to handle that? Any preferences?
Doesn't matter to me.
In the past, all the board members interacted with them, and I think that's maybe the best way to go. I mean, you had your canned questions that you were going to ask, but at least it gave everybody an opportunity to look them in the eye and ask a question. And I think that's important to see how they interact with everybody on the board as well.
Okay. All right, we'll keep it that way then, unless anybody else has strong opinion one way or the other. You all have your questions with your names listed on there and who's asking in what order. So we'll just go in that order. All right, any other further questions or discussion for our?
I have a question.
Yep.
So the rest of us and the other staff part and portion that's separate, do we have the same questions? I guess I haven't seen anything on that.
No, you will have a different set of questions. And tomorrow I will deliver a packet to the office, and that will include the background, all the background information on each of these candidates, as well as the questions that you will be asking in each of the interview sessions. Any other questions?
Now, Harold, the background information on each candidate, is that going to be for us as board members to pick up then also?
Yes.
Okay. So prior to Thursday, everybody needs to swing by the office and pick it up?
Yep. I'll have it at a given office by 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
Not before.
Okay, everybody can make that in their schedule for the next couple of days to swing by given. Any further questions or discussion?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Harold. Hearing none, we'll move on to 7B, which is the recall of a staff member from ULA. Lonnie?
With the consent agenda being approved, one of those items was extending Sue O'Neill's leave to be a district literacy coach. With that happening, I would recommend recalling Hannah Boisman from unrequested leave to fill the language arts position at the high school. Just a reminder that by doing that, we actually save money because Sue's literacy coach position is paid through the grant, and the position or the number of years and placement on the salary schedule for Hannah and Sue allows the district to save about a little over $11,000. And I believe that was factored into the budget now. So.
Any questions?
I'll move we recall Hannah Boisman from ULA.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to recall her. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do the roll call?
Odegaard,
Yes.
Clank,
Yes.
let's see, Haas,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen.
Yes.
It passes. Welcome back. We'll go on to 7C, payment of spring coaches and advisors. Lonnie?
We had a brief discussion last month. Districts are all over the place. Some are paying full 100% salary. I will say that a number of those, from what I've seen, is there was an expectation of those coaches to continue doing some distant coaching, offering training, that type of thing. Some districts have gone to a straight percent. There's one district that I'm aware of in the area that is going 65% for their head coaches, 35% for assistant coaches and junior high coaches, I believe. I'm also aware of a district fairly close that is prorating it and saying, you worked 1 week, we're going to figure out what from day one of the practice to the end of the regular season, this is what you would have been getting paid per day, and prorating it. And so it is all over the place at this point. I think the board can look at it a lot of different ways. I think districts probably are looking at it differently in the fact of where you're at financially. I think some are looking at it as also what they do now could set a precedent for what might happen in the fall, and trying to be careful with that. I don't know. I don't know that there's an easy answer on it. I don't believe there's a coach that's expecting 100% pay. I don't think there's that. I think there are some that would feel that if it's prorated, that they were somewhat undercut for something that they had been hired to do, and had put some time in getting ready for the season to do, and that just because their season didn't start, they don't get anything. But I'll leave it at that.
It's figured in our budget already, isn't it? I mean, it was figured in.
It was budget,
However, we're over budget, right?
correct.
Was there revenue figured into the budget too for sporting events?
I'm sure there was.
Mm-hmm.
So there's revenue lost and it was budgeted. So we have to kind of figure out the balance, I guess.
Well, most spring sports though, there's no administration or admissions into the ball fields or golfing or track.
Your revenue for the spring is roughly really through the revenue you get on activity fees.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and as hard as it is and as tough as Rich has to work to find coaches, I really do think we have to try and bend over to treat them as fairly as we can. I mean, I know some of the other districts around here have gone like a 60-40 split for head coaches and assistant coaches. I mean, that way at least you're acknowledging that they do spend some time other than student contact over the rest of the year, but yet it helps us out too because we're not having to pay the full amount.
Seems high in my eyes.
60-40.
Just saying, we ain't got the money. We ain't got the money to do it. So
No, I'm just throwing out numbers. Whatever we decide, we decide.
So how many weeks were actually in the season that they did? 2-3 weeks worth of time?
I wrote it down today when I was talking to Rich. Softball started and had 1 week. And all other seasons did not start.
Okay. Were there some trainings that the coaches needed to go to for those seasons?
Yep. An example, we had a new head baseball coach this year. One of the requirements of head coaches is that you have to go through certification with the Minnesota State High School League. It's roughly, it's 2 hours on and then 6 hours of away from. So there's 8 hours there. Rich and I talked a little bit. I'd asked, some different things, and through it, that baseball coach did some inventory for Rich that he wanted. There were some things done. There's others that, I don't think our coaches walk into practice on day one and say, "Geez, I wonder what we're going to do today." So most of them, I think, probably have a week or two, the first couple of weeks of practice figured out. So I'm sure they put some time into that. And the more veteran or the more time you've been in a program, you might be doing more with them to get ready. So I'm not going to say that they don't have something coming to them. And what I will say is, from a district standpoint, I'm going to encourage you do what you need to do this time. But I think I'm also going to encourage you that before we get to June, we have a plan in place of either a memorandum of understanding with the union, if they'll consider it, that in the fall, if the season doesn't start, there is no pay. Or there are districts that I've talked to already that are not going to approve coaching contracts for the fall until August, where they feel like there will be a season. So,
How long is the spring season? How many weeks typically?
I believe it's somewhere between 11 and 13, depending. I think it's 11 and 13.
So if we paid them 3 weeks worth of stuff, is that not enough? Is that too much?
that's like prorating it then.
Yeah.
So what if you gave them 25%? And you said some of them wanted some things for the programs, maybe they can have that next year. I mean, if you save the money now. I mean,
What
I know
is
it
the
doesn't
total-
sound like much, but they gotta understand, I mean, we need to save money and this is actually helping us out.
What is the total dollar amount for all the coaches and assistants?
Roughly, I think I did a number. It's right in the area of 35,000 for the spring.
If you do 3 weeks pay and you divide it by the 13 weeks, it's about 20, it's 23%.
So go to 30 then, that's,
Yeah.
but I think 60% is way too high. I mean, if we were sitting in a different position and we had money to burn there, yeah, I'd give it to them, but
Yeah, if we were in a different position, I'd pay him the full amount, but we aren't. And I think 30 is fair.
Do you want to do a different amount for the head coach and a different amount for the assistant coach?
I think the 30 beat it for the head coach. I mean, I don't, what do the assistants get paid, Lonnie?
I want to say, and I'm not walking away.
We can't see you.
So in the spring, assistant softball, 3,020, and then junior high softball, $2,642. Junior high baseball, 3,397. Assistant track, 3,755, and a junior high track is 3,020. And I think the one that might be a question that I would have for you is, we had talked about this earlier, junior high golf. There was a contract offered to an individual, but they were told that if numbers would not require them, they would not have the position. I would have to check with Rich and see, since golf was one that didn't start, was there an indication that there were going to be enough that a junior high would be needed, or is the board going to say that contract was offered with a stipulation we're going to honor that offer?
Okay, the numbers that you threw out were all the part-time, or the assistants.
Assistant or junior high, yep.
Okay, so what do the head coaches get?
Ranges from anywhere from, no, they're all the same, $4,907.
So I mean, $900 for assistants, and you're looking at $1,200 for the other ones, for the head coaches. So stick with the 30 on the head coaches and go down to 25 on the assistants. I mean, that's giving them about $800, and it's giving $1,200 for the head coaches.
Jason, is that a motion or is that just discussion?
Well, I mean, it's discussion. I mean, I don't want to go setting that right now. Everybody has to kind of agree on it before you
Well,
set a
no,
motion on something like that. I mean, it's, I'm
doesn't
sure
need to be,
people aren't going to like it, but
What's the time difference between the head coach and the assistant? Is it pretty similar in hours, or it's completely different?
I think it's different in the fact that, they're the ones that need to get information to the media. They're the ones that are developing the practice schedules. They're also probably the ones that are going to end up taking, if there's going to be parent calls, there's the one that are probably going to get the parent calls or the parent concerns. So I would say it's not the same. And that's why I think, the example that I gave you that one used was, there was a 30% difference, 65 and 35. It's that district felt it was almost 2-to-1 for the head coach and the assistant.
So then maybe if we're gonna do 30 for the head, we should do less than 25 for the assistant. I don't know.
I'm just trying to make it $800. I mean, it's not a lot
Yeah.
of money,
Yeah,
but I mean, I agree with the head coach should get more, but mean, I wouldn't go above, to me, I wouldn't go above $1,500 for them. You know, unless you want to set a dollar amount and just say, we'll give them each this, and that can be done too. You don't have to put a percentage on it.
That's true.
You know, I think all of them, Lonnie, were within probably $200-300, whether it was a head coach or whether it was a assistant.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you went straight numbers and just said 1,500 for head coaches and 800 for assistants, you're just about the same as shooting 30 and 60. You know, it's the same percentage, only we're paying probably 35 then and 25.
A number instead of percentage would probably make it easier for the accounting. If we
Yeah.
specify a specific dollar amount.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a percentage. We can just throw a number out and say this is
Yep.
what you're all getting.
I think it sounds like we kind of are all in agreement that there should be some kind of payment, and we need to, the head coaches should get a little bit more than what the junior high or assistant coaches are getting. Jason, if you want to put those numbers out there in a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion for head coaches to get $1,500 and assistants to get $800 for 2000. What do we say? The 20 season.
Right. I'll second it, but the 2020 spring season, I guess.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, any further discussion?
Do we
We have a
need
motion for the 2020 spring season coaches to have 1,500 for the head coaches and 800 for any other coaches that are underneath the head coaches. Was there any further discussion?
Do we need to talk about that golf coach?
We can let Rich probably handle that, huh? What do you think, Lonnie? I mean, first you got to find out whether it's, I mean, do they normally coach?
They have, yeah. They have been an assistant coach or a junior high coach in the past. If you wanted my opinion, the contract is offered. We can't say for sure that the individual wouldn't have been a coach.
Oh, you got to give it to them.
Yep, and I hate to say it this way, but I know we're not in a great situation, but it's $800, and it might be some goodwill for that.
I'm fine with that if everybody else is.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, sounds like that's considered a coach then. All right, any further discussion on this?
Do we need to talk about anything as far as in the motion about what we're going to do about the fall?
I will bring something for the June meeting.
Okay.
I want to have some discussion with the union and see if they have any interest in going that route. If they would, I think if you have an MOU in place, it's easier to talk contracts. If you don't have that, then I'm going to strongly recommend that the district look at not offering contracts until you know the seasons are going to be held.
Okay.
I just have one more question. If softball and track had already
Yes.
started, should they be offered a little bit more over the coaches who didn't even start?
I think we're doing a goodwill thing, doing it for everybody the way we're doing it already.
Just wanted to throw it out there.
I mean, we're above the 2 weeks that they already put in, and like I said, not everybody's going to be happy out of this, but something that we're dealing with, and hope we don't have to deal with it again.
Okay, any other further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call to the motion to a vote here. Julie, if you'd like to go through the roll call.
Clank,
Was that Mike or Clink?
Clank,
Oh, yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, it passes. We'll go on to 7D, agreement with collection agency.
The district has seen some, well, and it was, there's been some accounts that are overdue and have been for a while, and unfortunately, some of those have gotten big. And we have tried. Amy has worked with various people in the district that have shared these are overdue accounts, and she has sent notices with little or no success. In some cases, we've received some, but we continue to see accounts go a little bit higher. And so she asked about a collection agency, and I asked her to just do some checking into it. And in the packet is a proposal for an agreement with a collection agency out of New Ulm. And there's a minimal fee for setup. But then after that, they 40% of the amount collected from $0 to $2,999, and then from anything $3,000 and above, they keep 25%. I will say this is not something that we're going to fire off as soon as somebody's $50. We're going to use this as after we've tried some things. I have talked to some districts and that are using collection agencies, and they have seen some increased success. I don't know if it's because people seem to get a little more nervous when it comes from somebody other than just the school. Again, I don't want to use this and it impacts the relationship that the district has with our residents. Usually, Amy's letter has indicated that we're just, even if it's just to set up some type of a payment plan to get started. And some of these, we can't even get that. If you owe $500, can you offer at least, $10 a month that we can start chipping away at it? And we can't even get that. And so I think it would be positive for the district to at least have this as an avenue after some chances that have been given to people to pay it. So just some thoughts, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know Amy's on, so if you have questions that I can't answer, I will ask her to answer them.
I just have a quick question. Are these maybe families that would qualify for free and reduced lunch, but they're just not filling out the paperwork? Or no?
No, they are not. No.
Okay.
No. I think
we have a dollar amount for the total.
Amy, do you have a general or a ballpark figure?
Right now, what we're looking at is close to $4,500, and it's not all food lunch accounts either. It's different items that we've had to bill out for different services that we've done through the school.
And I will say that, I think a lot of times lunch accounts tend to be identified as the one area. We've been very fortunate this year that we've gotten some donations towards some of those overdue lunch accounts, and I think we're still going to have some. But even with those things, as Amy said, we're still at $4,500 that's due to us, and I don't know what's going to happen out of this situation, but our family is going to be, and again, I hope families will apply for free and reduced lunch, but there's other things that are still going to come up that are going to continue, I think, to add to that total. And again, I think the setup fee was $50. I think just to even get it set up, if you collect, a fourth of that, you're going to get a chunk of that back already.
Is that $50 setup fee, is that just for all accounts, or is that for each individual account?
All accounts.
Okay.
I would also like to add something to that. As far as being able to put them to a collection agency and not getting a response, it gives us a stronger resolution to write it off as bad debt down the road. You know, right now I have to prove and I have to document every time I call them, which is part of that letter. It also gives us proof later if we need to say, we're going to take this $2,000 and write it off as bad debt because we've been holding it on our books for 5 years.
How many different families does this affect?
It's not all families, Marissa. There's businesses and companies also that we have provided services to. It's not all lunch accounts. It's everything that we do receivables for.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense to me now.
Yes, it's not all lunch accounts. Lunch accounts are very minor in this, to be honest.
It makes it easier to do it.
Yeah, I think $50 is worth it. Amy's probably spending way more time calling and dealing with it. It's worth it.
I agree, and we could use your resources elsewhere.
Was one of those a motion on those agreements, or?
I'll make a motion to get the collection agency.
I'll second it.
All right, the motion been made and seconded to go into agreement with the collection agency. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do a roll call vote?
Blank,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Oz,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
All right, passes. We'll move on to action item number 7C. C, resolution for termination and non-renewal of a probation staff member. I have something to read here. Let's see. The resolution is A, consider non-renewal for teaching contracts. 1, it is recommended the board terminate the non-tenured contract of Heidi Erickson as per the resolution presented below. Resolution to the termination and non-renewal of teaching contract of Heidi Erickson, a probationary teacher. Whereas Heidi Erickson is a probationary teacher in Independent School District 2365. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 2365 that pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5A, that the teaching contract of Heidi Erickson, a probationary teacher at Independent School District 2365, is hereby terminated at the close of the current 2019-2020 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice be sent to said teacher regarding termination and non-renewal of her contract as provided by law. And that said notice shall be substantially the following form. Dear Miss Erickson, you are hereby notified that a regular meeting of the School Board of Independent School District number 2365 held on April 20th, 2020, a resolution was adopted by a majority roll call vote to terminate your contract effective at the end of the current school year and not renew your contract for the 2020 to 2021 school year. Said action of the board is taken pursuant to MS 122A.40 subdivision 5A. You may officially request the school board give its reasons for the non-renewal of your teaching contract. However, such a request should be received within 10 days after receipt of this notice. And that'll be signed by the clerk.
I would, and I just saw it, Phil, any motion should be with the correction of May 18th as the date of the board meeting.
Oh, yeah, it says April 20. Yep, correct.
So
sorry, I was just reading.
Approving the resolution with the date of the board meeting to May 18th.
Okay, I move that we accept the resolution for termination.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do the roll call vote?
Blank,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Oz,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, passes. 7F, decision on operating levy amount. Lonnie?
All right, very quickly. So we have received approval, obviously, to continue forward with the potential for an operating levy. And that date is August 11th. To do that, we need to pass a resolution with a question in it for a dollar amount. And so we need to determine that dollar amount. And so it was in your packet, you see 3 options that we asked Ehlers to put together with dollar amounts. And before my computer goes dead, I'm going to just step away and grab my cord and plug it in, and so my battery doesn't go dead. But on that, what we would be asking the public to do is currently have an operating levy in place that is the following. It is a board approved amount of $724 per pupil unit. All boards across the state can do that. Other boards then will add something like we did almost 10 years ago that is on top of that. And that has to be voter approved. It is $302.30 per pupil unit. I don't know where the 30 cents came from, but it's there. That is giving us a total levy of $1,026.30. It is lower than the state average. State average, I believe, is up in the area of about $1,200 and some dollars per pupil unit. Obviously, in our situation, that levy will run out in fiscal year 22. So that $302.30 per pupil unit would go away. It'd be a loss of $210,000, roughly. We need to run something. Unfortunately, given where we're at, that amount has to increase significantly. We shared with Ehlers where we are budget-wise. They figured out kind of what they believe we need to increase as far as revenue. And so you see 3 possible options. And Lindsay and Amy are on because the 3 of us have talked about this. Our recommendation, and I'll put it on me, my recommendation would be to look at that second or the middle column. It would generate enough money to allow the district to start moving out of statutory operating debt and building up a fund balance that they're going to need. If you go with the first one, the smaller one of $754 increasing, my fear would be that it might get you out of statutory operating debt, but your operating costs are going to go up, your salary and benefits are going to go up. The costs for those are going to go up, and I don't know that that would be enough to keep you moving forward to get the fund balance you need. I'm afraid you'd be looking at going back to the public again within 3 to 5 years, maybe. And I don't know that you can do that. That being said, those are some big numbers. And I know I did get a question. So when you look at that, so for example, in the middle, I believe I have a different sheet in front of me, but I believe on a $100,000 home, the impact says $200. That is $200 on top of what they are paying right now for that $100,000 home. So whatever that family is paying, you're going to increase it by another $200 for the year. And we have talked. It's not a great time to be running something, but there's not a lot of time left. If you don't run it now, if you don't run it in August, you can run it in November and see if things are getting better. You can. I don't know if it's going to be any better. And if that doesn't pass, then you're going to the following November, and that's your last shot to pass it before the current levy expires. Lindsay and Amy, feel free to chime in with anything else that I might have missed.
I don't think we have a choice but to run it in August.
Yep.
I mean, I got a feeling that there's a lot of people sitting out there wondering what's going to happen with the school right now, and some kids that are waiting to shift schools and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we have to run it and find out what's going to happen.
And I just think we need to make sure it's enough funding that we approve for a top-notch education. Are we in or are we out? Are we going to provide these kids with what they deserve, or are we not? And that's what the communities need to decide, because our kids deserve better than what we are providing them right now.
I agree.
Lonnie, with that second column, if that would pass, is that enough to possibly not cut some of the programs, or is that enough to just start building our fund balance?
My recommendation would be to get the fund balance up, and you can make that decision once you see where your enrollment's at. I think the piece that's going to really impact not being able to eliminate some of the costs or some of the cuts is, unfortunately, based on what we're looking at right now with the pandemic. Most of what Lindsay and Amy and I are hearing is, yep, for fiscal year 21, the state's given 2% on the formula. Everybody is telling us to plan fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23 at 0 and 0 from the state. And I believe they're going to change their distribution of 90% during the fiscal year and probably 10% lagging. I think they're going to hold some of it longer to help the state budget. So I think it could become 80-20, 70-30, something like that, to help their state budget. So I think there's some pieces that are going to make it really difficult to not have to continue making the cuts that are there.
So knowing that information, do we need to go for a higher dollar amount if we're not going to be getting stuff from the state?
You certainly could go to column 3 if you want.
But that number, it just builds our fund balance. It doesn't bring back any of the programming that we cut, correct?
Really, it doesn't, no.
Okay.
It's trying to give you the cash flow. You know, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to the point where we're not doing the $2 million borrow. Because again, we're going to be coming in June with another resolution to start the aid anticipation borrowing again in September, and we're anticipating $2 to $2.5 million of having to borrow again, even with where we're at right now.
So if we approve the third column, you could bring back programs, or no?
I'm not going to say yes because I don't know what the state's going to come with. And again, there are so many. There's the state piece of it, and there's a piece of the enrollment. You know, if their enrollment goes down, not only do you lose the state funding, but you lose the levy money too on that kid, because your per pupil units go down.
So Lindsay, you know our budget and you know the SOD plan probably better than any of us. What are your thoughts on this?
I think Lonnie's right. I mean, one, we can't guarantee that any of those dollar amounts are going to stop the reductions that we have in the plan, or bring them back as fast as we want to bring them back. One, because there's so many uncertainties with the state right now. There's also uncertainties with enrollment. So it's a big juggling act. Every time we move forward with one thing, you can move 2 steps back with another, if that makes sense. And the majority of it is based on your enrollment. I do think that the middle is the lowest we can go, like Lonnie said, without having to go back with the voters, especially given the current situation where the economy could be going. Because in return, the state is going to have to adjust for that also.
And the middle amount is what most school districts currently have in place.
Probably a little bit higher.
Okay.
But again, it is the reality that GFW faces right now, that it probably needs to be higher because of where we're at financially. And I believe, Marissa, you said it about as well as anybody can say. I think it's up to the public to make the statement of, are they going to support it, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's not a great time, but if the vote is no, I know somebody had asked me what happens if the vote is no. We still can run it again. You might be able to, or the state might ask you, depending on what the results are. Let's say that it doesn't pass, and let's say the vote total is 60-40. The state may look at you and say, what has changed that makes you think that vote's going to change next year? And they may tell you, you know what? No, it's time for you to be done. And so I think being very clear with the message of the impact on the district is going to be a piece of that sharing of the information. And being very honest with them. And you're right. It's time for people to say, we want the district or we don't.
I forget, can you remind me, is this a mail vote, or is it one where we have to physically go in and vote?
So I got approval through an email from somebody at the state, contacted Sibley County to let them know that we had gotten approval. But the approval came stating that you can move forward with your mail ballot vote. And so when I contacted the county, I said, I thought because we got approval, we could be a part of the primary election ballot. And Sibley County said, you need to get approval from the state as a stipulation that it can be a part of the primary election ballot. I requested that almost a week ago. And the response I got when I made the request is, I will add that to the request. I will add that to the request up the chain. I still haven't gotten the official letter from the state saying we have approval and that it can be on the primary election ballot. So as soon as we have an amount here, I will be contacting them to say, I need you to give us permission. So I can't answer that, whether it be a mail-in or whether it'll be on the primary election ballot.
Well, just to note,
If it is a mail ballot,
a mail ballot for the primary.
Excuse me?
Most of the townships have gone to mail-in ballots for the primaries, just because the state is recommending they do it that way rather than try and do social distancing.
If it is a mail ballot and there's a cost, I do believe there is somebody that will cover those costs for us.
Okay. So which dollar amount do you guys want to do? The middle column or the third column?
I said a third.
Go for broke?
Well, they got to understand where they're at, and if you want to operate these schools, and let's say you don't get a new one built or something for a while. I mean, if you got to operate these buildings, it's going to cost you money.
This is a 10-year operating levy. Is that correct?
That is what I would recommend the question be, for 10 years.
Okay.
And also in the future, if we do get a building bond, you can reduce the operating levy.
Yes.
That's the December meeting, correct?
Correct.
Yep. We could reduce the board approved part of the levy.
Correct.
You can basically give it back.
Yeah.
if you want.
Okay, is there a motion out there? Or further discussion?
Well, I also think we need to take into account what we think we can get to pass. I mean,
Right.
if everyone thinks that we can get the third column to pass, I'm all for it. It's a lot of money, though. Do we have a better chance of getting the second one, the middle column passed, rather than the third column?
That's the $1 million question.
I don't know whether either one's gonna pass. I don't know.
What do you think, Phil?
Well, I know we do have to do something. That's definitely for sure. I'll propose the motion for the middle column, which would be, let's see. Is that the additional revenue pupil unit? Is that the number that we state, or do we state the total dollar amount?
You guys just tell me it's middle column and we'll get the wording into the bigger
Okay.
piece will be, as soon as I get to work tomorrow, I'll be contacting our attorney to get the resolution. We will need to have a special board meeting next week to pass a resolution with the official question in it. So as long as you just tell me that you want to change it to the middle column, we'll get the wording the right way.
You think that's enough, Lonnie, when the other one runs out in 22?
Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to revoke this, the one that we're in. And that's, like I said, that's 302. We're going to add $1,104. So the question will be asking people to approve $1,406.30. No, $1,406. Realistically, we felt like going to the middle provided an opportunity to start bringing the fund balance back a little bit to where it needed to be. We knew it wasn't going to reduce any of the reductions probably, but it gave you a chance to at least get to that point and hopefully not go back to the people again for a good long time. And it gives you a chance to maybe get one building passed. And if you can get to that point, that's going to really help.
Okay.
So I would say middle. And we also talked about, is that easier to pass? And if I remember right, like on $100,000 home, which I think is fairly close to the average in the district, the difference is $200 and $274. So it's a $74 difference. Some people are going to look at that and say, that's an extra $74. I'm not doing that.
If I'll finish with my motion, then I move that we accept the middle column. Is there a second?
I'll
Is there-
second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded for the middle column. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do the roll call vote?
Plank,
Yes.
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
All right, it passes. For the middle column.
Bill, before you go on to the next one, can we at least talk about what people's schedule looks like next week? As I said, there'll be a resolution that'll come with the actual question with the dollar amount in it. I would like to give our attorney at least until Wednesday of next week, the 27th, to put that together. Not that she'll need it, but I'd like to at least have that. It should be Wednesday, the 27th. I don't know if that works for people to do. Should be what I would think would be a fairly quick meeting. to approve that. And if, the only other thing I would look at putting on there is if the purchase agreement for the land in Gibbon comes through and gets finalized, we could have those two items on there.
Same time?
6:30 work?
Yep,
Yeah.
that works for me.
For next Wednesday.
Yep.
I can't be there, but you guys can go ahead.
Is that enough time to get the agenda out, being there's a holiday?
You're in the office tomorrow, right?
But you have to know about the land, the purchase agreement and all that.
Well,
You put it on the
We'd
agenda and we
actually-
can approve it.
you know what, Julie, we'd have until Thursday of this week. So I'll double check with Dana at city offices and see if our attorney can get it back to us. We'll figure out if it's a 1 or a 2 item agenda.
Okay.
You can do it, Julie.
Okay. Can we move on to the next item, or do we have more, Lonnie?
Nope, that's fine. Wednesday, the 27th at 6:30.
All right, 7G then. We'll go to Renville County Child in Foster Care Transportation Agreement.
All I'm gonna say is it's the exact same agreement that we had this year, so, and it's worked well.
All right, I'll move to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie, would you like to do the vote?
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Blank.
Yes. All right, passes. Go on to 7H, Minnesota Valley Action Council.
I'll say
MOU.
the same thing about that one. It's what's been used for the last few years and it seems to be working well. Reinvent the wheel.
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? We have a motion to continue on with the Minnesota Valley Action Council, MOU. Hearing no discussion, Julie, would you like to do the vote?
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Clank.
Yes. All right, it passes. Lonnie, I'm showing that that's everything we have. Was there anything else that was?
Nope, the only thing I would say is we'll have some things to sign. So Julie and I will talk tomorrow and we'll figure out. I'll have Julie get a hold of Marissa or you with anything that needs to be signed and set up some times.
And when will the packets will be in the office in Gibbon on, is it Wednesday?
No,
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
What are the packets I'll have? Because I printed off the questions and everything already.
I believe it's got the background, the credentials, so you
Oh,
can
okay.
see the candidate's letter of application, resume, those types of things.
Okay.
Is that something I can have somebody else pick up for me, or do I physically have to do it myself?
Actually, and I don't want to speak for Julie, but maybe she could drop it off at your house on the way home.
Can you drop it off at my house too?
Really? I don't want to, I'm not going to say, but
I know
I
where
think-
just about everybody lives.
I have a box
Not everybody.
for
Just discuss with Julie outside the meeting, maybe. Okay, so everybody has to pick up their packets sometime after tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe he said.
how late
at
do you
that
leave
time-
the office?
Tomorrow I'm only there if it was approved until 12:30.
it was approved. I'm there until 4:30, 4:45.
Okay, and we'll be able to sign the papers then when we come in tomorrow?
As far as I know, the only papers I need signing are from Marissa
Okay.
and Lonnie.
Okay,
Sorry, Phil.
that's okay. All right, any other further business? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll
I-
make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, I took Haas. Who's
I'll
I'll
second.
second it. Yeah.
Voss?
Motion's been made and second to adjourn the meeting. Julie, would you like to do the roll call vote?
Odegaard,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Klink.
Yes. We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.